if a bear even gets in sight, they're going crazy.
Okay.
So
what are they doing?
They do this bark. I wish it's like a ba 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 ba.
Okay.
This is my best llama impersonation.
We hope by now you've had a chance to sign up for the Modern Homesteading Summit, hosted by Melissa K. Norris, that starts June 10th. Until June 9th, you can get the All Access Pass, which means for $47, you're going to get all 27 presentations plus $400 in free gifts if you sign up for that. Go to the link on our website at huntharvesthealth.com. And you can also find it here in the show notes. You can also do it for free. It's no cost to you. And it's pretty exciting. We feel like this is probably our biggest project to date. And it took us an entire day to film and to cook and to show the recipes, these dehydrated recipes that we make for the backcountry and for on the go, as well as some other snacks. You're going to get all those recipes. You're going to get a PDF. You're going to get a video of us talking and us showing everything that we do. And on top of it, you'll get our ebook for free. Go ahead and check that out, and we hope to see you there. And today on the Hunt Harvest Health podcast, we feel super privileged to have a great friend of ours who we sat down with in Boise at the BHA in April. His name is Mark Livesay, and he is the founder of Treeline Pursuits. He has a great website, a great YouTube channel where he does a lot of the same things that we like to do. So he talks a ton about dehydrating and packaging food for the backcountry. His videos are really good. Ryan and I are super jealous of the amount of time that he's put into his videos and made to show you exactly how to make dehydrated meals. He also has a big love for the backcountry like Ryan does. In this podcast, he's going to share kind of his elk hunting history background and kind of where he comes from, because originally he's from the Midwest. He's not even from the West, and how it was a dream of his to come to Montana and live in this part of the country, and how he's basically made that happen. He's also a llama guy. So we get a lot of information here about llamas, the type of llamas that he prefers, and just how llamas are great for the backcountry in comparison to things like horses or goats. And I know that Treeline Pursuits, they actually rent llamas. And so if you go to his website, I think it's ultramaxsports.com, you'll find a Treeline Pursuits link there, because that's his other business. And he's going to talk about that here, that he's been doing for a couple decades now, an event company, but Treeline Pursuits is kind of like really where his heart is. If you want to know more about this, you can find the show notes at huntharvesthealth.com/podcast/Treeline Pursuits.
Yeah, well, to be successful, you got to have a lot of drama in your life. I've figured that out. Right? You know, we don't have TV. I don't think you guys do either, right?
We just have like a TV
we have
that
Netflix,
we watch.
Netflix,
I think we have Hulu, so once in a while we watch TV shows, but like Survivor is one we've watched for 20 years, but that's about it.
So we're in the hotel room, and Maury Povich, all these daytime. I'm like, there's more of all these guys I never heard of. I'm like,
are those guys still around?
Yeah, it's back to back to back.
I turned this TV on. There's like this morning, like Maury Povich was on.
Holy cow! Wow.
This one was about she still loves her fiance, but he just found out he has a baby with his ex-girlfriend, and the ex-girlfriend beat up the fiance. I mean,
I watched one. I turned on this morning. The headline was this guy talking, like trying to plead his case, and it said she poisons me to cheat.
No, that's it. Yeah, she mind controls him.
Oh my gosh!
And I was like, all right, we'll change that right there.
Do they still have like Springer reruns?
Oh yeah,
on
they got Springer was coming up next when we turned it off.
Gee whiz, it's incredible.
And you wonder what's wrong with people. All day long, the people that are at home.
There's a crowd of folks that are actually paying attention, because obviously it's been on forever. Huh.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Okay, well, we're sitting here in Boise for the BHA Rendezvous 2018, and we've got Mark Livesay sitting here with us today. I've got a lot of questions for you today,
Well,
Mark.
at least you pronounced my name right. Most of the time, we have to review that before
What do
we get
they
started.
What do they say?
Livesay.
Livesay?
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, it's spelled like that, so.
Oh no. I've heard Livesay many a time.
Oh, yeah, I bet.
So we wanted to talk to you about a variety of things. We've had a chance to hang out a little bit. We hung out actually last year as BHA in Missoula, which is that's not your hometown, but it's where you're
Missoula,
residing right now. Yeah. And then we were coming back from Montana. Shoot, when was that? How long ago was that?
It was a year ago, April. We stopped in
No.
Missoula.
That was about.
When we swung
February.
in and met up with Mark.
Yeah.
February.
And his wife. And
You mean
kids.
when we got kicked out of the restaurant?
Yeah, Mark's
You
kids
mean when you and your kids were running wild?
his
like,
crazy
All
kids
those dang
mixed with our
homeschool
crazy
kids, get them out of here.
Those Lampers heathens
Jeez. Yeah.
influencing my kids.
They threw us out. Nice little cafe in Missoula.
Yeah.
They have standards there,
Apparently.
We can't live up to that.
But anyway, so so we got you on and figured we'd chat. You've got quite a few interesting things going on, and one of those was llamas. You were just telling me everybody wants to talk about llamas.
Why are you whispering?
I don't know.
Our llama's like sexy.
Well, not to me.
Llama, red pajama. Well, hey, all you got to do, if you want to know how popular llamas are, all you got to do is go to Old Navy. Now, they have everything's llama now.
Oh, yeah.
Llama shirts, llama notebooks,
We have
picked-
llama sheets from Target.
llama socks.
I picked my
What
daughter
number
up.
is he? Pull your thing a little closer.
I picked my daughter up a llama sweater that was for Christmas. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's get a quick intro for you, Mark.
I'm 52 years old, so that'll come up and that'll be important in a few minutes. It's not important right at the moment, but my wife and I were from Missouri, and we were on a ski trip 3 years ago, and we were on our way home from skiing, and we're in the event business. We own a company, Ultramax Sports, and we produce events around the country, marathons, triathlons, bike races, everything you name it. We do about 200 events a year. And if you know anything about the events or the event world, you know they're always on Saturday and Sunday. So it's a 7-day-a-week business. And it just really, over the years I've been doing it for 20 years. And over those years, it was just really taking its toll on me and just working and working and working. And then my passion has always been Western big game hunting. I do a lot of hunting in Missouri, or did. But I traveled out west. I just loved it. And I missed 7 years in a row. And my wife was starting to see that I was just not happy with that.
How long had you been coming out west from Missouri?
This year will be my 37th elk season.
Oh,
37th elk hunt.
Okay.
I've been coming out for about 25 years.
Okay. And then you had obviously a big track record of doing it, and then you hit a 7-year window where you had nothing.
Think about it. If anybody's listening that elk hunts, imagine you're just going along. I hunted 19 years in a row, and then 7 years of nothing. And then picked it back up, obviously, now. But
yeah. So
it was terrible. You can imagine if you took it away from you for 7 years, and not only they take it away, you have to start working 7 days a week.
Even worse.
So anyway, I'm not here to sing it. It's not a sad story, but it was taking its toll. So my wife said to me, just plain simple, she says, I want you to sell a couple of our business. I want you to get things organized. We're moving west. You got 1 year. I'm like, kind of thought she was kind of joking. And we went on for a long time, a couple months. And one day, kind of in passing, she just said, hey, what's the plans? Because it's March 18th is when we're leaving. And then that's when I kind of realized she was really serious. And then I guess it hit me at the right time, and I bought into it, and I was ready to do it. So I think a lot of guys like listen to this podcast that live in the East. I think a lot of us live there, and it's hard for people out here to understand like the dream of moving out here. But there's things that keep you from doing it, obviously. But we just decided we were doing it no matter what. We owned businesses. We had so many ties. We have family. We had the whole thing. Family threw a fit. We have 2 little kids, so both grandmas, everybody, there's a big to-do over that. Of course, I was to blame. It's fine. And so March 15th, I think it was, we packed, we sold everything. Not everything, but we moved out here in a 26-foot box truck after 20 years of marriage, whatever, And so we got rid of everything that wasn't important, moved out west, started over, moved to Missoula. We haven't looked back. It's just been.
So what were the top few things that just like pulled you over here?
So we originally were going to move to Colorado. That was because most of my elk hunting of my elk hunting career, if you want to call it that, most of my trips were Colorado. I've hunted Arizona, New Mexico, Wyoming, any state that basically the first state you could drive to and get into elk from Missouri. I had never driven through a state that had elk to get to an elk that get to a state that had elk.
I gotcha.
I don't know, it was a roundabout way of explaining that, but
Sure.
I just couldn't control myself. When I hit the Wyoming border, I'm ready to hunt in Wyoming.
So you never did get to like Washington.
That's
or
right.
Oregon
Idaho,
or
never made.
Yeah.
And you know, flying is always an option, but just too much gear. You got to drive. So anyway, we always just drove to the states, and we just draw whatever tags we could draw. And it's funny for guys listening to this too, is like, and girls, I hunted New Mexico when you actually could draw a tag pretty easily.
Yeah, I don't think it's possible anymore.
I've been drawing for several years now and haven't gotten one since.
No, I put in every year and have for a long time.
So anyway, I've drawn 2, and I only put in like 5 times.
Holy
back
cow.
in those. This was like in the early 90s. So anyway, we were planning to go to Colorado because we love Colorado. We love skiing, but Colorado's just really grown a lot. I love Colorado, but it's busy now. I mean, and we just, there was a moment when we just said, we really, is that the place? We just thought that was the place. And then I was just Googling and I said, I've always dreamed about hunting elk in Montana, but we never drove out that far. And I was like, what about Montana? If we're really going to do this, let's do it right. And we never even been in the state. So we jumped on a plane, flew out to Montana. That was it. We were decided right there.
That was it.
Right then and there.
Wow. Huh.
Yeah, no place like Montana.
Yeah,
Now,
it's
we
easy
probably
to fall
shouldn't
in
keep
love
saying that. Everybody says quit saying that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's
Well, I grew up there, and I have lived in Washington longer now than I actually lived in Colorado, Wyoming, or Montana, which are the states I was born and raised in. And I still, every time I go home to Montana, I'm driving home that way, like being there, it's just I just feel better. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just like a homesick kind of thing, and there's just something about it, the way it smells, the sky looks, like, I don't know, just a lot of things. So
yeah, just the country. It's very easy to fall
just
in
the
love
Rocky
with
Mountains
Montana.
in general. And I agree with you about Colorado because I was born in Fort Collins. My brother lives in Denver, and I had considered Seattle or Denver when I decided to drop out of college and go to the big city. And I picked Seattle because I didn't have any family there. So I was like, I'm getting away from family. You do that when you're in your 20s. But we've looked around at different places, and we live around Seattle, which is a very busy place, populated place. And we looked at Denver because I've got lots of family there. And it's so different now when I go to visit my brother there. It's like so crowded, and it just feels like Seattle. It feels like that. And then, just even go to the mountains on I-70, like to go skiing for the day. It's like sitting in traffic. And I thought, no, we already do that. I just don't, it just feels different than when it did when I was real little. It was still small. I remember Denver was big, but like Fort Collins was a small town. It was like Bozeman or Missoula. And now, of course, it's all just urban sprawl. So
the front now is the craze. Everybody wants to live in the front. So
what was it about Missoula?
So we actually made the tour when we went there. We went to Bozeman, Kalispell, Missoula, Helena, Billings. We kind of checked out all the cities, and there's just something about Missoula. We stayed in a little bed and breakfast right on the Clark Fork, right downtown, and I'm like, this river runs right through the town. I'm like, and I'm as much as I love elk hunting, probably my second love is fly fishing. Definitely second. It's not close to elk, but I do love it. And there's 5 rivers that just run right through Missoula, and it's just. And I feel like Missoula particularly, we're right in the mountains right there. Instead of being, I like the views of Bozeman. I did like that you could see the mountains, a lot more mountains, because you're kind of in them in Missoula. They're not as big and everything. And then the proximity. We love Coeur d'Alene. When Amy and I, in our prior lives, we used to love race triathlons, and we raced all over the place. And we did the Coeur d'Alene Ironman twice. And that's really what brought us to Missoula. We loved Coeur d'Alene when we did that race, but we flew in, just stayed in Coeur d'Alene and flew out after the race, but we loved it. It's one of our favorite races, even though it was one of the toughest races I've ever done, but it was one of my favorites. So we just loved that Northwesty kind of feel. And so, but we loved Idaho. So I like that. We're kind of right in the perfect spot. I can kind of within 3 hours, you can get to a lot of things from Missoula.
Yeah.
So I love that.
Yeah, it is right there. Very centrally located for an elk hunter fly fishing nut.
It's pretty good.
Dang. Yeah.
Pretty good.
That's cool. So what those races you were talking about, I had heard a little bit that you had done some marathons and whatnot.
Yeah.
Tell me the extent of your racing career.
Now, most people that see me today would be like, you did what? Back in my younger days, I retired from triathlon in 2007.
All right.
Again, work. I started racing triathlons and got this passion for it and raced for 15 years, pretty hardcore. I did 11 Ironmans in 15 years. And then I developed a business out of it. Mm-hmm. So I turned my passion into a business, which everybody says is a good idea. It was a bad idea. Because when I turned it into and I love my business, but when I turned it into a business, we work weekends now. So my racing career was pretty much over. Mm. It was hard for me to put on races and then go train and go to races. I'm like, I'm at races enough.
Right.
And so anyway, it was time. I trained really hard for a lot of years. And that was my substitute. Kind of my pinnacle of my racing years were kind of the lead up to not being able to hunt so much. It was kind of my release for not going and doing as much of that. So, your life changes, and as things evolved, I quit racing as much. My wife still does a few races here and there, but I don't do hardly any races. And then I moved back towards hunting again, and now I'm back where I want to be. And I've stepped away from my business, and we moved west, and we still own our business. It's still operating, still doing extremely well. But we sold all of our retail stores and that kind of stuff. So we just centralized now on the event business.
Gotcha.
So yeah, I've raced for a lot of years. I loved the Ironman distance. Again, I think it's a lot like backcountry hunting. I mean, it's just the extremeness of it. It's incredibly difficult, and any day can be a good day or a bad day. It's not all about swimming, biking, running. Everybody thinks like triathlon, swimming, biking, running, which it is to a certain level, obviously. But in the Ironman distance, it's about your nutrition and your mental, because you're out there. Some people 17 hours. Some people as fast as 8.5. Some people 17. So there's a big range there, and so a lot can happen in that amount of time. And so I like the challenge and the effort required. So anyway, that was I loved doing it, and we went to Hawaii. My wife and I both qualified for Hawaii on our honeymoon. We went on our honeymoon to Brazil, and we did Ironman Brazil on our honeymoon. Both of us got slots to the Ironman World Championships in Hawaii, and we went that next year. No, that's not true. We qualified in May, and we went that October. And so that was kind of the highlight of our kind of career. If you're a triathlete, that's your dream. To go to Kona and call it Kona, to go to the Hawaii Ironman Championship. It's really hard to get there. I'm glad we did it when we did it, because it wasn't as hard as it is now. Kind of like drawing a tag in New Mexico. I did it when
so it's getting harder. Or just harder to qualify.
It's the top 1% of the world. I mean, it's just really, really difficult to get a slot. Basically, you have to win your age group, your 5-year age group at a major Ironman event now. Pretty much is what you have to do now. I mean, there's some flexibility on that, but so
you were elk hunting while you were doing these races.
A little bit.
Okay.
Those were some of my best elk hunts, though.
Yeah,
I was in incredible shape.
Got to translate very well from.
I was going up and down the mountains a lot easier than I'm going up and down them now. But yeah, so it did translate well. But it's the same, guys. I mean, running, as you know, I mean, a lot of guys that you run is no replacement for packing with a pack on. You can run all you want. You put that pack on your back and you're changing your muscle. It's a whole different game. So it obviously crosses over, but it's not a.
Yeah, sometimes runners aren't good backpackers.
That's right.
And backpackers are not good bikers, and bikers are not good runners.
You got to be cross-trained in a lot of sports to do well in the backcountry.
Right. Yep. So what do you do now? Like, what's your mode of preparation for the backcountry? Because I've followed you for a while, and you spent a lot of time in the woods.
I do.
I don't know how many days you were in the mountains
I don't know
last
if I spend
year,
more than you, but I'm very lucky. My wife, and she understands my personality is like a light switch. It's either on or it's off. When I'm in something and I've got to drive to do it, just like triathlon, everybody's like, I'm doing an Ironman every year. Some year I'm going to do 2 Ironmans. But when I turned that switch off, it was off. I was done. I have no desire to do an Ironman again.
Right.
But so when I came out here, obviously I turned the switch back on, and my wife knew I needed to do that, or allowed me to do that, and it's been a dream. I mean, I hunted in September. I bow hunted in September every day but 3.
That's impressive.
And that was fun.
Yeah.
I did a lot of hunts in September, and then a lot in October. I mean, I don't know how many days. A lot of guys like to keep track of their days, but I'm not completely sure. But I know I did upwards to 150 days.
And most of those elk days were local, like Montana, western Montana.
This year I hunted Idaho and Montana.
Okay.
Last year I hunted Montana, Wyoming, and Idaho. So I usually try to hunt 3 states a year for elk, because my goal is to get 2 to 3 elk. That's kind of what our family needs every year to kind of. We've got 4 kids now. I've got 2 foster kids and 2 of my own. And so we got a pretty big family, and we love to entertain people now that we have the time, that we're not working so much, and share with friends. And so we have a lot of dinners, and we cook, and everybody loves elk, so we cook a lot of it. So I need to kill a lot of it. That's my excuse, right? I've got to go out there because I got to provide.
Is that the trick, to hunt more states? We need to entertain more, I guess.
I would be fine with that. Ryan was always the antisocial one. I'd be like, let's have a party. And he'd be like, no, let's not have a party.
I think my wife's biggest fear is that one day I'm going to draw about 30% of the tags I put in for every year. And it's going to be one of those years. And, that's the risk you take when you
put in for a lot of places.
A lot of places.
I know. Hillary hears it every time. It's like, don't worry. Don't even look at the credit card. Don't worry.
I don't even know what he does until I see the credit card bill, and I'm like, what are you doing?
Well, thank goodness a lot of these states now are starting to not charge you up front.
Yeah, that's kind of nice.
Some of them are starting to go that route.
I hope it keeps continuing to go that route.
So my advice to everybody listening, if you're young, don't do what I did. I hunted elk and loved hunting elk, but I never applied for some of these more, quote, trophy states. And now that I have this time, I did not have the basic points in a lot of states that I really wish I would have done when I was younger. And a lot of these states allow you to apply preference point only, and it's not too expensive to do it. There's obviously some administrative expense, but if you're dreaming of doing it, don't put that part of it off. At least, if bare minimum, at least do the states that allow you to do preference points only, so you don't have a risk of drawing a tag.
Yeah, it really is looking into the future and setting yourself up for some just phenomenal hunts.
Well, I'm watching a lot of these on Instagram. I mean, I'm friends with, unfortunately, I hang out with a lot of 25, 30-year-old guys.
And keep you young.
I'm older than most of their dads, which is kind of weird. But I see them say, well, I'm going to start applying for that state, sometime. When I start doing this and this, I'm like, dude, you need to do it now so that you're going to have 5 or 6, 7 points by the time you're ready to try to draw something. Like Arizona, I probably may never draw an elk tag there. I've been drawn for years, and now I'm being kind of picky. I'm trying to go for some harder units, but
sure,
it's just a game that you have to start playing young.
Yeah,
everybody knows that, but I just I wish somebody would have told me that when I was 25 with the elk bug that I had.
Yeah, I agree. I made the same mistakes. There's so many more points I should be sitting on right now in different places, and I bum out about it now, but I've always been cheap. So those over-the-counter cheap hunts, like my home state, it was always right there, and that gave you so many opportunities in Washington.
Well, that was me with Colorado. It was 12 hours.
Yeah.
Well, to the border, but I mean, in 20 hours, I could be hunting. Now, that sounds like, but people out west like, what? You drove 20? That's like down the block from Missouri. If you're going to elk hunt, that's the shortest distance you can drive.
That's right. Yeah.
So, we just drove to Colorado, hunted. And we were perfectly happy with that.
Yeah.
Well, now I'm like looking at these Utah and Nevada and the Wasatch and the Henrys and all these places I'd like to go.
Yeah.
That ain't going to be possible at 52 years old with 4 points.
Fortunately, you got Montana to fall back on, and if all else fails, you got over-the-counter stuff there in Idaho.
Well, and that too, it's part of elk hunting for me too. A lot of people say that to me now.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, you're in Montana, you can buy 9 big game tags. Why are you going to Idaho and Wyoming? Why are you paying? Like I just bought a non-resident tag today for Idaho at the Fish and Wildlife office. I love new places.
I'm with you.
If I could hunt a new elk place every year, I'd prefer to do that than keep going back to the same places. I know there's a lot to be said about getting used to an area and that's the best way to kind of approach it. But man, you just don't see the world doing that.
Yeah, it may be that you learn it and you're more successful in those future years. But the excitement of trying to just dig into a new spot, and what that involves is research, which is fun. I love sitting and researching new spots, sitting on a map.
That's what I do.
Plugging away, trying to pick apart every little draw and everything, and it's fun for me. And the excitement goes away a little bit when you've hunted a spot for your 20 years or your whole life.
You kind of know it, and that doesn't mean there's a guarantee.
Yeah, it's still fun, but it's not.
I just love, and I'm working on a new video series right now on digital scouting. It's like right now it's an 8-part segment that I'm working on, and I'm basically going to share. I mean, I'm not proclaiming to be an expert at digital scouting, but if you're going to hunt a new place every year, you got to get pretty darn good at it,
right?
Because you can't go put boots on the ground in 3 states for 3 or 4 different species and have any kind of productivity.
Yeah.
So you got to rely a lot on digital.
I mean, all our time is so limited these days. Especially if you got a family, you just can't go put those boots. And that, honestly, that used to stop me from going to Colorado or Wyoming. I just felt like I had to go scout it. Well, the tools now, and you're going to highlight those in your videos, but the tools now allow you to go see it.
Oh man,
and check it out and figure it out.
And it's just like not every day, but I would say almost every month, I'm finding a new tool, or not only finding a new tool, but a new way to use that tool that I didn't really use it properly. Like Google Earth, there's so many tricks and tips, and the settings of Google Earth change the game too. Like just the profiles and the way you set your preference settings.
Mm-hmm.
And then now all the KML layers that you can add to Google Earth to see topographic and the hunting units and the fire zones and public land now even on Google Earth. I mean, there's so many good things that are available, and then not to mention all the Onyx and Gaia and GoHunt.com and all the things that are out there. But there's just so many really good tools that you can use that I've just right now I'm rarely spending a considerable amount of time evaluating an area and going into it and coming out with nothing.
Yeah.
Now, not meaning killing something, but feeling like there just was no elk here. I had no elk sign, I'm just not running into that. We're picking good, decent spots. At least we're getting in there and we're in elk, or we're finding elk pretty quickly.
Right.
And that was not the case when I first started. There was no tools. You just drove the road car. You weren't even sure if the roads were going to be open.
Yeah.
Motor vehicle use maps were from Missouri. They were hard to get because you had to request them and mail them and the whole bit. And now with them all being online, now we're turning on a layer on a.
It's gotten so easy.
All you new hunters take all that stuff for granted.
It's gotten so easy, but there's still a lot of confusion, and there's definitely a lot better ways. So that's cool that you're.
I love that stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Right on. So you want to share one tip as far as one of the tips that guys can use that maybe they're not thinking about for e-scouting?
The number one tip is Google Earth. A lot of people, and I love Onyx. Now, Onyx people are going to kill me for this, but I love Onyx, but I also love a new app called Gaia. And actually, if you use Treeline, you could get a free year from Gaia on me. Not on me, but that's kind of a partnership with them.
So talk about Treeline Pursuits real quick.
Treeline Pursuits just my play toy.
Yeah.
When I moved out west, I said I got to have something to have fun with. So I just created this little brand and printed a couple hats. Threw up a YouTube channel, do a bunch of DIY stuff.
It's awesome.
Share some stuff, and
you've got so many good videos on YouTube.
I have fun time. I'm just having. I hope we'll talk a little bit about dehydration too. But just put my hands in everything, and I thought, I might as well just share this journey a little bit. Because here's the thing. I mean, I know a lot of people listen to these podcasts are Western hunters, a lot of them, but I'm sure there's a large population of your audience that are Eastern guys like me. And I think the resources for the Eastern guy are pretty limited. There's not a lot of great things for tools because they don't get to approach it exactly the way we do it. I can go down and check out like I just did. I drove down and checked out the snow for bear season. We were just talking about that. I'm like, man, Idaho right now, hunting above 2,500 feet is going to be tough. It just opened, Idaho's in some units been open April 1st, but if you're planning a bear hunt, you're coming from Missouri, you could be in for a rude awakening if you decide to hunt opening day at 3,000 feet.
Right.
So those are things we take for granted living here now, but those are tools and things that I want to pass along, just some knowledge of whatever I've got. And I think I have a unique perspective coming from the East, moving to the West.
Yeah, that's cool because you already know the challenges.
Yeah,
you know
that's what I'm trying to address in some of my stuff.
Yeah, yeah, that's good. That's decent of you.
Yeah, well,
and most of it's free.
Well, and I get some hate mail for that. Why are you putting that out there? Why are you putting this out there? Because when I on this digital scouting stuff, I'm gonna lay some stuff out there. Probably people don't want shared that much, but
sure.
Let me put it this way. I would have appreciated it if I could have put my hands on a couple of things.
So when is that coming out?
Well, it's I've got it all written.
Yeah,
I'll be looking for it.
But when you start trying to record and capturing video manipulation, computer manipulation and audio, and so it's going to take me a little bit. But it'll be the summer.
Okay.
It'll be summer.
Okay, cool.
And I'm going to do it in parts. So
yeah. Like I said, I've watched some of your videos. They're super good. Talking about
they're filmed with a Garmin Verb for the first
food and the dehydration stuff.
They're real and they're long. And so if you don't really want to get into the details, my videos are probably not very good for you. They're kind of long, and I'm trying to work on that. But if you're going to really
but for somebody who doesn't know anything about it and they want to go all in on their prepping their own food and dehydrating meals and especially that. You kind of want all those little details.
Well, that's what I said.
It's going to save you in the long term.
A lot of people, and I'm not criticizing, but a lot of people put out a 2-minute video on how to do digital scouting.
Yeah,
that's impossible. There are several that I found. There's not that many videos out there about it, but the ones that are out there are like 2 minutes. You can't even address the KML layers and how to organize Google Earth in 2 minutes. Not to mention all the other tools. So what's taking me so long on this is getting all the ideas that I do have and organize them in what segments. How am I going to break this out where it's somewhat followable?
Right.
So it's not just a jumbly mess. Right. So that was kind of the first challenge. And then I'm writing some articles too. I've got a couple published. I got one into Eastman's right now. And so I'm loving that. I got time to do it now finally.
Yeah.
So I love that too, and so I'm just liking all that stuff.
What kind of articles you're writing? Is it mostly food related, or
no? I just wrote one on the equinox and moon phase for elk hunting. Because again, coming from the east, you got 10 days. Right. You got to pick those 10 days. A lot of the guys out west, like me, I'll call, but hey, are they bugling up there? Are they not? Oh, if they are, okay, we'll head up this weekend. That ain't an east thing.
No.
So using the equinox, a lot of people get wrapped up in the moon, which is not really what triggers the rut, as everybody knows. But out east, there's a perception that full moons and that kind of light is what triggers the whitetail rut. There's a lot of misconception about that back east. And there's some, obviously there's problems with full moon with hunting, of course. But so anyway, I wrote this article, how I combine the equinox and the 5 days preceding the equinox is what I consider key, not the actual equinox, and then balancing that with the moon phase. Like last year was a perfect storm. The equinox and the new moon was dead on. First time in years. Perfect, except we got 20 inches of snow.
Yeah.
Ruined it.
Early snow.
I packed in on the perfect day, on the perfect situation, and we got buried. So even if you have the perfect day, it's not always a guarantee.
Mother Nature can still slap you in the face.
And the elk just shut up.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but they did. I've never experienced a hunt like anything like last year. It was a very strange year. At least for the middle of September.
Yeah.
So anyway, I wrote that one, and then I just wrote another one on hunting in grizzly country. Again, coming from the east, this is my first experience of really digging deep into protecting yourself in grizzly hunting. And there's always plenty of articles out there that says use bear spray. Well, come on. but none of them really go into what do you really do at camp? How do you set up electric fence? Do you hang your food? See, I'm almost stopped to the point where I don't hang my food anymore. I'm thinking I've got to, if you read a lot of the bear protection articles, a lot of them are starting to recommend that you put it inside electric fence lower to the ground so it doesn't, the smell doesn't get broadcast.
Okay.
Now, I don't mean when I say don't hang your food, that doesn't mean leave it on the ground next to your tent.
Right.
It means protect it in electric fence away from your tent if you can. So anyway, I've been researching some of that. And the next thing I've been figuring out about that, I know we're kind of all over the place here, but a lot of the over-the-counter lightweight bear fences, I know I'm going to probably get some people fired up here, is they are not at the level, the joules they put out, the electrical current they put out are not at the level that are recommended by almost every bear article that I've read. They're not even close.
Really? Okay.
Yep.
So I'm super curious about that. I was just talking to a guy the other day about the bear fences and what he recommended, because we used to use them up in Alaska and they were highly effective. But then I've heard a lot of people talking lately as if they really don't deter them. But I know the ones that we were running up there.
But were you running cattle, like traditional cattle ones? Or were you running the bear, like produced for bears?
No, it was not produced for bears. That was
Tractor Supply or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
That's exactly my point. And again, I am not proclaiming to be an expert, and I don't want anybody to take this the wrong way that I am. But in my research, I've spent a lot of time researching this, and all the articles I've read is it comes down to the watts and the joules, that they're putting out.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a trade-off between what you can carry in versus weight of an energizer that's going to activate your electric fence versus the joules it's going to put out, or the power it's going to put out. So, but there are some available. I've found several that meet or exceed the recommendations, but are not that, they still operate off a 4 D-cell battery, so not crazy heavy.
Okay, so they're just maybe a little bit heavier, but so what would be the most effective that is out there on the market as far as like battery weight?
And again, I'm going to have to defer that question. I'm going to write about that because I don't have the numbers in my head for what I got, like to remember them. But the one I got was at Murdoch's Ranch Supply Place, and I went in there, and it was funny. I went in there, and there was an article that I just read online from the Fish and Game for grizzly bear recommendations. And if anybody it's like a 20-page pamphlet. If you take time to read it, and then you go over and look at I don't want to say by name, but you look at the pre-packaged bear fences, they're half
of what they recommend.
Now, that doesn't mean it won't keep them out. It doesn't mean they won't deter.
But will it just tick them off?
I don't know if it's going to tick them off. I don't think electricity would tick a bear, but if they don't hit it with their nose, I'm worried that if you get wet, you get fur, they're not grounded properly, your stake may not be long enough, whatever.
They may just walk through it.
They may not. And they may walk through it anyway. I basically want the bear fence to let me know it's going to happen. I'm perfectly ready to, I'm perfectly feel like I'm ready to protect myself with my pistol and my bear spray and all that stuff. But the question is, I want to know what's getting ready to happen.
And that's, I think, what a lot of people argue. They don't know that the bear's not going to walk through that fence, but they are going to be alarmed. They are going to hear something. They are going to be more, brought up to date. There's a bear coming, and that'll allow them to reach over and grab the pistol or the bear.
Well, and I put the little bells on my electric fence too.
Yeah, good. Yeah.
And sometimes if the wind's blowing, you might have to do something with that, but that works well. Hey, if you really want protection against grizzly bears, get yourself some llamas. That's been the next line is those llamas bark.
They'll let you know.
They don't miss a beat on that. I had 2 bears in my camp this last year in camp, and those llamas both were going absolute crazy.
Oh man, llamas are funny. We used to have them. We had a place out in Monroe. My uncle used to have them, and coyotes, dogs, anything that would get in that pen, you would just watch those llamas just run that thing right out of the pen.
They're very aggressive.
They are.
And a horse would not do that.
I wonder, has there ever been an issue with a wolf and a llama?
Not with me. Now, Bo Beatty from Wilderness Ridge Trail Llamas is who I got my llamas from. And if you're getting llamas, I highly recommend that. Not to be a plug, but he's a great guy. He's had a wolf come into his camp, a young wolf came into camp and just kind of sat there and look at the llamas.
Okay.
And the llamas just kind of looked at him And they both decided, I think, that we're just not going to go any further than that. And he just went on. And now Bo said that he's had wolves come close to camp and howl and be right there, but have yet to have, and he's been doing it for a long time. And you remember how many trips he takes, and not one instance of a wolf, being aggressive and trying to attack.
Okay. Yeah, I think that'd be super interesting because, man, usually llamas will go right at like any dog or coyote. And they'll like confront them and actually walk at them or run after them.
Now, see, mine won't do that.
No.
Mine's got my llamas, and I think it's a personality thing. My llamas have a circle around them, basically. If they come inside that circle, they get amped up.
Okay.
But if you stay outside that, they tend to let you be. Now, when the bears are a different story. At my house, I have a lot of bears that come down by my house. If a bear even gets in sight, they're going crazy.
Okay.
So
what are they doing?
They do this bark. I wish it's like a ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba.
Okay.
This is my best llama impersonation. It's just a high pitch squeal. We got a guest here with us now.
Yeah, my dog is going crazy. New guy in the house.
And so it's unmistakable, and it's shrill, and it's guaranteed to wake you up.
Yeah. Well, that's a good thing. That's important.
Hit pause.
Okay, so what was that noise they make again? I got to hear it. I think you can do better.
It's like, it's almost like a bark.
Okay.
And it's like a and it's just
is that only something they do with predators, or they do that to each other?
No, I've never heard my llamas do it ever.
Only with a bear.
With a bear.
Okay.
Or a predator. Mine have never done it with a dog. They did it with elk one time at the worst possible time. Elk will see, llamas particularly are very aware of their surroundings. They do not just happy-go-lucky down the trail. You think but they are constant scanning.
Right.
It's amazing to watch them, really, if you really pay attention. They really are constantly, and I was in Idaho on a solo hunt, and we just came across these grizzly tracks in the snow, it looks like, and we were coming down, and my llamas just stopped in the road, and I tried to pull, and I couldn't, I was pulling the lead, and we were in a little bit of snow, so I thought they just didn't want to go in the snow, and I'm pulling on them. All of a sudden, they just start barking, and I look up the hill, and here's some elk standing up on the hill. I'm like, oh, man. And the elk are staring at them, and they're not even watching me. The elk are not even watching me. So I had my gun on. I was gun hunting, and there was a small bull in that herd, and I was gonna shoot that bull at that point. But those llamas kept barking, and those elk kept watching them. I had time to get my pack off, get my gun off, load my gun, walk behind my llamas, get my gun on the top of my biggest llama, and right when I was getting kind of ready to get it, and then they moved off. Oh. But they almost gave me enough time. And that was
actually a benefit, though.
Well, sometimes. But I've never seen mine bark at – they've seen elk before, and I've never seen them bark at an elk. So that was kind of surprising.
Yeah. Do you think it's just because they didn't quite know what they were?
I don't think they knew what it was, and I think they smelled that bear.
Yeah.
Because they were – I've come across what I thought was mountain lion, and when they hit that path and they smell that mountain lion, because that's kind of, from what I kind of read, that's kind of like their number one predator for llamas in real life too. That's just kind of bred into them. They do not like mountain lions.
I've seen that with my dogs, my bird dogs. You come across a fresh track in the snow and the hackle comes up.
Yeah.
And their hackle's up for a while.
They get real worrisome when we cross paths with like a track that might be a mountain lion or what I suspect might be. It's only been a few times. Obviously, there's not that many tracks out there, but the few times I think that I've ran across them, they've acted very strange for a while. It takes them a while to calm down.
So how many years have you been packing in with llamas now?
This will be my second. I'm pretty new at it, actually.
Okay.
I packed all this last season.
And what do you think so far? I want to hear some benefits, maybe some.
Yeah, you get on the subject of llamas, we can do a whole nother part. I love the llamas. I'm probably, I'm an advocate of them. I'm going to really do my best to share as much information about llamas coming up as I can. I'm going to do a lot of stuff with llamas like that. But I kind of didn't do a lot last year because I felt like I was in a big learning year, because I wanted to make sure before I start sharing a bunch of information that I had gone through and experienced it all and didn't want to act like a know-it-all. And But I hunt a lot of days with my llamas this year. Me and my llamas were buddies. I do a lot of solo hunting. I think you do too, but I just love that challenge of the solo hunting. And so I probably half of my time hunting is solo.
Okay.
But anyway, it's kind of nice having those llamas on those solo hunts, obviously.
Yeah. Well, shoot, you get a whole lot more gear into the mountains, and you get to live so much more comfortably.
You live comfortably, and you don't have the fear.
Yeah.
Like for me, I'm always like, when I'm by myself, I'll be packed in. Maybe I'm 5 miles, not that, whatever. And there's some elk bugling down on the other side of this range. I'm like, so many times I've backed out. I'm like, I can't. That's too far. By myself, I'm never going to get that elk out of there. You probably don't do that, but I evaluate those situations, and I'm like, I'm not going in that hole. I don't think I can get it out with 70 degrees
to get it out.
Difficulty. But now I'll bail off there because I know I got my buddies back there at camp. They're going to.
Yeah.
I don't take them. A lot of guys take them out with them when they hunt during the day. I don't do that. Now, sometimes gun hunting, I might take them, but when I'm archery hunting, I leave them at camp.
Okay. And how are you leaving them in camp? Are you highlining them? Are you running
That's kind of one of the best things that kind of about llamas. One of the better things in the backcountry with the llamas is they're low maintenance. You don't have to pack hay. They eat kind of what's available. As long as you rotate them around, move them a little bit. They don't need a lot. I mean, it doesn't have to be a big field or anything.
Sure.
And actually, mine, there's grass growing everywhere, and mine almost prefer to eat pine needles.
Yeah. How the heck do you get them to drink water?
Well, if you find that out, you need to tell me, because every time we cross a creek, when you really say, boys, here's your chance.
This is it for a while.
And they just stand there, and they just look at you like.
I swear they absorb it through their skin or something, because I've always had issues like just so you think they gotta be thirsty.
Well, I'm worried about we worry a little bit about them, and so now I give my llamas water every day, but I have a little 4-gallon square bucket that I use in my packs, and I carry that around to each llama at night, and I give them a chance to drink, and if they want to, they will, and if not, I move to the next llama, and as long as I do that morning and night, and they're good. They they'll drink when they're ready.
Yeah.
Now, when they do drink, they do tend to drink a lot.
Yep.
But I pack in a pound of food a day. It's a dry pellet. It's a kind of llama called llama treats. And that's 2 things. One, I think that it gives them some nutrients and some energy if you're really packing them heavy. Number 2, it's a kind of a reward. It's kind of a treat. And they like it. I think it's like so it's kind of a welcome thing when you get back to camp. You can go give them a few treats, and so I don't know that they need it in all cases if you've got good feed around. But so my point is, what you have to take in to maintain them when you're in the backcountry is pretty minimal. And so as far as keeping care of them at camp, I use a typical dog steak, not the screw-in kind, because those are hard to get in. And I was real nervous about this at first. I tied mine up a lot to trees, old trees and stuff at first. But Bo uses the steak, and I've now got totally comfortable with just using the steak. They just don't pull them out.
Okay.
Which they could.
And have you ever had one wrap itself up?
That's why I use the steak.
Okay.
Now, not
so does it pivot around? Like
yes,
the steak,
it pivots around. Yes,
okay.
And it's right ground level, so they can't get hung on the steak.
Right.
Now, what I have noticed about llamas is they don't wrap. They typically mine. When I speak, I'm talking from experience with mine. They don't typically wrap themselves up like to a dangerous point, like get all tangled. They'll wrap themselves up till they feel like they're wrapped. They'll just lay down. I come back and they're wrapped up around the tree, but they're just laying there happy as can be. They seem to know when, all right, this is enough. I need to lay down.
Quit struggling.
Like a dog might just keep going and be hanging in the tree.
Or a goat.
They just don't do that. They just lay there.
My goats will wrap themselves silly.
So I have found that steak in an open, as long as you got an open enough area, which, sometimes you just don't. But yeah, they do fine. Now I short rope them in areas if there's a lot of trees. Like I usually put them on a 16-foot lead. They're on a normal 5-6 foot lead that I lead them with. And then I have an extra piece of 10-foot cord.
Okay.
That hooks onto that. So I put them on a 16-foot. They've got a nice circumference. But if I'm in the trees or I'm in tight quarters, I will shorten it up. Yeah.
Interesting. So llamas weigh what? Llamas are about what, 300 pounds?
Most of I have 3 that are about 300.
Okay.
And I have 1 that's pushing about 400.
And what's kind of like a typical lifespan of a llama? Like how early do you start packing with them?
And again,
How old do they get?
this information is kind of what I've absorbed from Bo. So I'm
Okay.
just passing along. This is not firsthand information for me because I've been in the llama business for a year and a half now.
Hmm.
So they can pack. I mean, from what I've been told, 17, 18 years. And they can pack as early as 2 or 3. If you're going to pack them at 2 years old or so, you got to go really light, like real light, like maybe just the saddle and maybe 10, 15 pounds. Like last year, for example, this just turned 4. So they were 3. I have 2 that were 3 last year. So they were packing, but they weren't packing what I would consider at their full potential. So they carried about 50 pounds. I had 60 on them a few times. And they would go all day, every day with that much weight. No problems. My older ones, 5, 6 years old, I was putting 70 pounds on. It's almost like they didn't even know they had it on.
Right.
But this year, I've got them pretty conditioned, I think, to get close to 80 pounds. And,
That
but,
is so much gear.
well,
Think about
in a short
But
distance.
really, what you need it for is the pack out. You need them, conditioned enough to haul that meat out for the most part.
And this is where some of the llama community gets worked up about when you start talking about those kind of numbers.
Mhm.
And because they're like, well, there's no way they can carry those numbers. Well, we talked about this off air a little bit. I think there's a misconception in the llama world from what I've gathered and what I've been around with people that talk to me about llamas is, they have not been exposed to maybe, or they haven't had the opportunity to get with a true bred Kakara llama, a pack specific llama. Because, as you know, probably the alpaca kind of llamas are the most prevalent around, for their fiber and stuff. And so you get a lot of those or crossbreeds of those get mixed into this or they show up on Craigslist.
Mhm.
Somebody gets a llama, is going to turn this into a pack llama, and it doesn't turn out like they hoped it would. Maybe they're a little lazy, a little slow, a little whatever. Just they're not bred for that. It's like buying a poodle and trying to turn it into a bird dog. I mean that's not the perfect example, but that's purebred bird dogs are very athletic. They're bred as athletes. They got an innate. I mean, my baby bird dogs would point wings at almost
right
birth.
out of the gates. Yeah.
And that's what you're talking. I think that's some of the same things you're talking about with llamas. Is you've got to get yourself in the llama world. You got to get the right llama for the job.
Yeah. See, I'm not a llama expert by any stretch. We used to hunt with them a lot, but they were not my llamas. They were my uncle's, and I had no idea. When you told me that there was actually a difference there. You kind of think a llama is a llama. And we had issues with, every once in a while, we had some really athletic llamas. And then we'd have one that was not at all, that we would call camp meat or whatever.
Yeah.
And, they would lay down on us and they just didn't want to pack weight. And they were just a struggle. And doing anything and everything to try to get them to stand back up. If you're going up a hill, they just lay down. And yet then we had some that were just, they would acquire names like Popeye, where they're just super strong, athletic, and nothing would stop them. And they packed a ton of weight if you needed them to. So,
well, and I think that, not that you couldn't have a lazy Kakara llama, I haven't seen one yet.
Okay.
But what people, I think another thing they get wrapped up in, and I think this gets avoided a lot in the podcast, is if you're going to get Kakara llamas, you got to get your checkbook out.
Expensive.
They're expensive, incredibly expensive, more expensive than people think. When I got in this business, I was not expecting to spend what I spent.
So what are we talking?
I've been looking at a lot of llamas lately because I've been adding some llamas. I just bought 7 females, and so I'm going to start breeding llamas. I'm starting to rent llamas now too in Missoula. So I'm renting llamas and I'm raising llamas, trying to raise llamas in partnership with Bo. But if you could find a 3-year-old paper registered Kakara llama that has pack experience for less than $3,000, you have got a deal. Wow. And I mean a deal. I've looked at 2 llamas recently that were about 5 years old, between 5 and 7, that were pack llamas. And they both have been $5,000 and $6,000. So,
Wow. Yeah.
Now that may be But if you think about pack horses or pack mules, if you just go get a regular horse and pay $1,500 for it, it's probably not going to be the best pack horse. But you want a real pack mule, you're going to spend $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 on it. So, you know, I hate to say this old cliche, but you get what you pay for. If you're going to spend time with these guys in the backcountry and you're going to commit your hunt to a lot of it being based on the abilities of your llamas, and you're going to spend the money on these tags that we spend and the gear that we spend, I'd rather have 2 llamas that are $4,000 each than 8 llamas that are free off Craigslist.
Yeah, this becomes a burden.
And now there's people making it work. I love the podcast. Stephen Ranella has a podcast with his brother Matt. He loads his llamas in his van or a station wagon or something. And he's always talking about, Matt's always like looking for this great deal on this llama on Craigslist. So he's made some, and maybe he got lucky and got Kakara llamas, which you could.
Sure. It's probably happened.
And I think you could get Kakara llamas off Craigslist in the past. But now the jig's up. The word's out on llamas, and the chances of that happening are slimmer than what they used to be. So, and I'm not trying to sell anybody on certain llamas. I'm just saying that I decided to buy nice commercial ready pack llamas, and it's been the best decision I've made so far as the llamas go.
Okay. Huh. Yeah, I think, you know, as I get older, who knows what's going to happen down the line, but I've talked about getting better pack animals, and I've had some issues with the goats. Now I've not been the best about
handler.
Yeah, I am definitely not that. But I've often thought back to when we used to go into Idaho a lot with the llamas in the deep snow. You know, they were phenomenal. And we had all those reasons that you outlined was we didn't have to pack a bunch of hay, just like, you know, with the horses and whatnot. So very, very easy to deal with when you're back there. And water was never an issue because you could, you know, lead them to water every 4th day or whatever. And, man, they still wouldn't drink anything. Yeah. But the benefit, some of those hunts that we used to do, there was no possible way we were doing those hunts unless we had a pack animal with us. And those were migration hunts. Yeah. You know, they were pushed down a little bit. But in the deep snow, we had some phenomenal, like really athletic llamas that, man, I mean, you get a bull down and they'd go down into these draws, you know, with 2 feet of snow, bellies dragging, and still get them out. Yeah. And pack it all out.
They're incredibly sure-footed. I just can't. It's phenomenal how sure-footed they are. They cross water decent, not great, but better than goats typically. Now goats, I've seen goats cross water, sure, but that's kind of the problem area with goats, from what I've been told. Rain and water. When I told you this September 15th ordeal, we had a massive amount of wet, nasty snow for 5 straight days, and my llamas just laid out there in that wide open field and made a little melt and just laid there and just relaxed, head up, totally happy, totally content, not cold, no problems. And I just checked on them, and that's all I had to do. Yeah. And I had one got loose. One of the stake either froze or some came loose from the clasp. And he just laid right where he's been laying, went right back out there and hooked him right back up.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. They're gregarious, so they're not going to like split off from the others and take off. They're probably going to stay fairly close. Isn't that kind of how they work?
Now, they're hard to catch sometimes. Llamas are weird. They're like that dog that really wants to be by you but doesn't want you to pet him. They're not as lovey-lovey as people maybe want them to be, but they want to be right beside you. They'll go everywhere you want to go within arm's reach, but when you want to get like in their space, they tend to want to resist. They'll lead all day. They love to walk right behind you. They don't pull. There's no problems. But when you start trying to rub their heads or act like they're a dog,
they're just not into
they
it.
don't like that stuff.
Yeah, like opposite of a goat. Our goats are just like, touch me, pet me.
Now my kids, I've noticed, my kids will go out in the llama pen, which I would never, it would scare me to death if they were doing that with horses, walking all behind them, grabbing their hair. They let my kids hang all over them. Huh. I don't know if it's just a perceived threat thing, but I go out there and try to get the harnesses on them, and it's a rodeo sometimes. But my kids catch them like that. Yeah. And
it's got to be a threat thing. You're a big old dude.
Well, it's just my wife. Happens to my wife too. I just think that my kids are just like, they're dialed into those kids, and they just don't perceive them as an issue, and they just let them pull.
Where do llamas come from originally? What is their?
I believe
they from, like, Peru
yeah,
and-
Ecuador, Peru. I think they're they're high mountain, and that's what they were bred to do was pack. Unfortunately, they get used a lot in the drug trade. I think,
Yeah.
but because they're quiet, they don't make noises. That's another thing I kind of like about them. When you're packing through the timber,
Oh, they're super quiet.
they're just. I'm looking back, make sure that they're all still hooked up.
Yeah.
I've got a couple that lead so well that they keep that line so slack. If I didn't look back, I wouldn't know they were even there.
Yeah.
And they're super quiet. Obviously, most people know they got soft feet.
Real easy on the trails.
You can't even tell where they walk. We just went on a hike in the mud.
Mhm.
We were leaving more tracks with our boots than they were leaving with their, 400-pound hooves. But not even hooves, they're whatever they call them, llama hooves. But they're soft-footed. So even if you do get kicked, like if you pull their hair or something on an accident, or you're trying to clip, it doesn't really hurt. It's more of a thud.
Right.
So
what do you like? I guess one of the other issues I've always thought of is if I did get a couple of llamas, and I'm not the type that would want them with me when I'm out there hunting, like you. What's your biggest worry? Is it predator?
yeah, I mean that's
Because
you worry about that. I do worry about that.
Hunting cat country and bears.
And you got a lot of money sitting out there. I mean, in my camp, I got many thousands of dollars staked up out there.
Yeah.
But if you think about it, at the same place I've got my llama staked out there, I got my $1,200 Seek Outside TP up.
Yep.
Bear's going to rip that up. Got my $450 down sleeping bag in there, $500 Western Mountaineering, whatever you got. You got a few things around camp that are valuable too. Now, I'm not saying they're valuable as a llama. I just take precautions. I try to keep them close together. I don't want them tangled with each other, but I keep them close together. And I stake them. I'm now staking my llamas a lot looser. I want them to be able to break loose if it gets to be a serious situation. That's why I've gone, honestly, Ryan, that's why I've kind of personally have decided to go away from tying them up. And whenever I can, and use the stakes. Because I have noticed that they don't really have a problem with those stakes pulling out, number two, and I want them to be able to get away, have a chance to get away. Now, cat comes in, it may be a bad situation.
Sure.
But, again, for a cat, that's a big animal for a cat to take on. Now, not that they obviously can't, but I've been in cat country all year. This last year, I hadn't have any problems. I'm sure it's going to happen someday. And Bo, been doing it for 20 years, no cat problems. And he's all over Utah and not. I don't think he's had a llama attacked by a cat. I'm trying to. He's never told me about it. So if he has, I don't know about it. I've never heard of one from friends on Instagram. I mean, nobody's ever said anything. I'm sure it's happened, but
yeah, it's crazy. It's one of those things where it would just. Yeah, I think it would happen more, but then it really probably doesn't.
Well, here's one of the reasons I think doesn't happen as much is because, like, of a goats. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but when you leave camp, they're wanting to go with you, and they're making noise.
They are making all kinds of
racket.
They're like
turning on the Fox Pro.
Yeah,
I mean, it's like turning on a predator call.
Yeah, and I think they've left this stinky goat trail all the way up to where my base camp is.
And now they're balling.
And now they're just
saying,
crying.
"Come and eat me."
Yeah.
And horses kind of do some of the same. When you highlight a horse that you've got a relationship with, that horse is going to start baying, making noise. And now horses is probably not as much threat to predation, but I'm sure it happens. So I think the quiet nature of the llamas, they don't move around a lot. They just don't attract a lot of attention. Now, if one walks by, but they're not advertising themselves is what I'm saying, I guess.
It doesn't happen a lot. Yeah. Something I shouldn't probably worry about.
When you leave camp, they kind of look and they don't even stand up. They just look over and, I'm glad I'm not going to be doing any hiking right now. I don't know what they say, but
yeah. Cool.
So no, they're super easy in camp. That's one of the reasons I love them is I just leave them. Yeah. Like 10 days in that snow, I never moved them. There's no reason to move them. There was no grass.
Right.
So I kept feeding them pellets, of course. I had to up my pellet consumption, but they never got unstaked or never got moved in 8 days.
No kidding.
And they were totally content with that.
Yep. So what trips you got planned for this year? I know you're going to be doing a lot of hunting with llamas.
A lot of llama hunts. I'm still waiting for some tags.
Obviously,
like everybody. So I'm for sure going to hunt. I'm not a big rifle hunter. And mainly because coming from the east, you had to kind of pick your poison. But living in Montana with this general tag situation, I've kind of gotten to where I kind of like it some, especially when it comes to what I like to do is I like to hunt big bulls, what I consider big. Like I want to kill 350 bulls. I've not killed one yet, and that's my goal. So I focus my archery season on just trying to target big,
I think your best
bulls.
opportunity for big bulls is with the bow, just because of the time
that's
of year
right.
it allows you.
And then the way Montana works, I'm like, if I don't get it, I still am okay because I got gun season to kill whatever I can kill for meat.
Sure.
So I love that approach. So that's kind of my approach for Montana. I've got a lot of Montana hunts planned, so obviously until I get my elk, but I'm going to hunt Idaho this year for sure. I'm going to apply for a controlled tag, muzzleloading tag, but if I don't get it, I'll do it over counter. Probably rifle because I'm pretty dedicated to archery to Montana. I just love it there for archery.
Yeah.
And then I'm doing a second rifle hunt in Colorado. And then I'm waiting on a tags in New Mexico and a few other places. So if I draw that, I did do the over the counter January mule deer hunt this year in Arizona, which I really loved. I probably will do that again.
Really?
Yeah, I had a great time.
I saw that you were down there.
I had a great time with that. I'm not I come from Missouri, so I was not that all gung ho about my mule deer hunting when I first came out here. Because I'm like, what's the big deal? I've been hunting giant whitetails my whole life. I don't need to hunt mule deer.
Have you seen the light?
Well, I got out here and went to the breaks. My buddy taught me to go to the breaks. Okay. I'm seeing these to me, monsters.
Yeah.
180, bucks. Not everywhere. I mean, a few of them, not everywhere. But I saw these 180 class bucks walk around, and then I'm like, okay, there's something to this mule deer hunting. Now I'm kind of hooked on it. So I drove all the way to Arizona, hunted, and I went to the breaks twice this year in Montana. I'm gonna hunt up north this year in Montana for mule deer. I haven't gone to a lot of states yet for mule deer, so I've got 8 points in 7 or 8 points in Colorado, so I need to use those. That's going to give me a pretty good tag in Colorado.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, Montana alone, I mean, you got so much opportunity in Montana.
Yeah.
And, it's not always going to be, I don't know if you want to call it the best quality, maybe not the biggest bucks in the world in Montana, but, man, some of the country you get to hunt them in, and like you mentioned, the breaks, that's so super cool. You get to see a lot of animals.
Yeah.
So it makes it a ton of fun.
I got mixed feelings about hunting them with the rifle during the rut in Montana, like a lot of guys do. I love the ability to do it, but it keeps the age class down, obviously. But there's other places besides the breaks. Obviously, I hate to say specific spots, but the sheer volumes of deer, they're not hurting that bad in Montana.
Yeah,
there's a lot of deer in Montana. Not a lot of big ones, maybe. What people there's probably not too many 200 class bucks running around Montana. I'm sure there's some, but the opportunity is definitely
a lot of opportunity
for really nice bucks. I mean,
for sure.
Now you primarily archery hunt during rifle season, don't you?
Sometimes, yeah. I mix it up though. Some of those late November hunts, like you, I love going at them with the rifle. Northwest Montana, that's an area that the density is so thin. The work is in finding one.
Yeah.
You throw a bow in your hand. I mean, you could spend 10 days trying to find a mature buck. Then you throw a bow in your hand. Opportunity is going to be very, very slim that you come away with a really good mature buck. So your challenge there is locating it and getting in range with a rifle.
Yeah.
But, the east side, the breaks, stockable country.
Yeah.
Easily can be done with a bow. Now, one bad thing that I've heard, though, is they're taking it pretty hard this year with winter.
Really?
East side.
That's what I've heard, too, and I was kind of hoping that was not true.
A lot of the state seems okay, but that eastern Montana is getting hit this year, unfortunately. And they're just coming back, too.
I know. They had that's what everybody says. I kind of came here on the rebound time, I think, when I moved, obviously, from what I've been told. So,
yeah, prior to the last winter, we hunted it a lot, and man, such a great hunt. Just so many animals. $20 a day out there, and just kind of pick one and go for it.
That's right. Well, and
it was just getting back.
If they can make it too, I think another great thing about the breaks is, we're going to have everybody out the breaks talking about like this, but all those burns were as bad as they were are going to be they're going to be gold.
Yeah.
300,000 acres of new habitat for mule deer, basically.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be gold.
Yeah.
I know guys that hunted in the burn this year, 2 months after it, and they were seeing bucks in there.
How dare you throw that secret out there? Mark?
I'm about sharing stuff, man. People don't like me over that, but
I know it's funny that a lot of people
there's
say
300,000 acres.
3-4 years after a burn is when you're going to start, but no, there's deer in there right away.
There's some in there, and that blows my mind itself.
Yeah,
there's just you think there's nothing in there to eat, but there's little shoots coming up that they're so anyway.
Quickly.
That's the thing about Montana is like I'm almost at like a kid in a candy store now. Is like I wake up and as I start thinking about going to places, and there's just almost too many options to consider.
Yeah,
to really focus in on.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, cool. Well, hopefully you get down on that late hunt. That's a hunt that I've never done. Is that late season January hunt for muleys in Arizona?
Well, you're welcome. Yeah,
looks like fun.
You wouldn't want to drag me along behind you, but I really enjoyed it. You're welcome to. I'm thinking about that, or I've got an opportunity to do some Texas hog hunting. I may do both. I may stop and do Arizona, hit Texas, and come back. But one more thing I want to say about the llamas too, for guys that are thinking about if you're trying to convince your wife that you need to hunt more. Taking my kids into backcountry with these llamas has been the most amazing thing. Because it's so hard to get your kids in the backcountry when you're backpacking all your stuff and their stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And you're taking less stuff, no toys. I mean, obviously, no fun stuff. You're taking the bare minimums. You're eating kind of bare. Taking in just good food and good sleeping arrangements and even books for them to read. I mean, and
the llamas allow you to make it comfortable.
And my kids complain about hiking, but the minute I put that llama lead in their hand and they got their own llama, it's like 5 miles later, they're like, are we at camp already?
Yeah.
So anyway, if you that's been an unexpected positive, how much my family likes going with them.
Yeah, because if you don't have that, you're almost limited on how far you go in. Of course, I talked about my daughter a million times, but that's not always going to be, manageable. It's taking your youngin' in, as far as you want to go.
Well, I'm able to take my kids on, like, we're going to go on 2 trips this summer, and selfishly, they're /scouting/ family trips.
Oh, yeah.
Because I can get my kids in 7-8 miles now with those llamas.
Yep.
And they're 5 and 8.
That's cool.
I've got one of my llamas that I've kind of been working with that he'll be able to take one of them if they get to the point they get too tired.
Okay.
They can ride on him now. They'll let them set. They'll ride, no problem. But I'm going to get a saddle and we're going to do a little more formal training. But I've got up to about 50 pounds. At 50 pounds, the kids, they should be walking themselves. I mean, let's be honest. But I'm almost afraid to do it because I know what my daughter's going to want to do.
Going to ride that thing.
She's not going to want to lead anymore. Yeah. She's going to want to. So I've been real resistant to it. But to get her past 5, I may have to give a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we have that struggle, when they're little. Like our older one, they're so far apart in age. So we have one who can walk 20 miles. Then we have one that's like, her legs are like far. This long, So it'd be nice to have a capacity for her. Because she loves to walk.
Yeah.
She's just super slow, and we won't get anywhere in Ryan's speed very quickly.
See, that's the other great thing about llamas. It slows Ryan down because you've got to go at llama speed.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a thing.
They're quick, but they're not fast.
Yeah, it's like a steady pace.
Happy-go-lucky.
I'd be great with that. I feel like his pace is just his pace, He takes off, and then you're hiking by yourself.
Well, that is a good point, though. I like hearing that, though. That's probably a big thing for getting the family back in on, these super cool places that they may never see.
Even a better hunter than you already are. Slow you down just a little. Take a look at your surroundings.
Jeez.
You're probably blowing by so many elk. You're walking 10 miles. You're walking by 100 elk to get to the one that's 10 miles away.
Well, he likes that, though. That's the thing. That's his thing. Like, there's 100 elk, but there's probably 100 elk 2 ridges over. Right. I'm just going to keep walking. So, but if he plans on taking kids in there to hunt eventually, he's probably going to have to learn to not walk.
Yeah, some of these early season bear hunts, I think they'd be perfect for that.
Yeah.
I'd get you way back into some of those, we do it in the fall, but some of those shoots and berry fields and whatnot. And yeah, you could set up an incredible camp and with all the, creature comforts that a kid would really enjoy. So definitely something to think about.
Yeah, I've and if you're going to spend a lot of days in the backcountry and you're going to quote dedicate that much time and try not to, and for me, try not to pursue it selfishly.
Mm-hmm.
My wife loves the wild game. She just loves it, and she loves the outdoors, and she loves that I do what I do. But I want to be able to take them as money as I can. My wife actually, I couldn't even believe it. We bought a gun tag, elk gun tag, and she hunted one day of the season last year, and that's a milestone. Now, if the elk would have actually came out and it came to pulling the trigger, I'm not sure that would have happened.
You got a 50-50 shot.
Yeah. I would have probably had to talk her through it. I don't know if she would have done it. But my point is, these llamas have allowed me to share what I love with my family, which before, Ryan, I mean, just going to a campground is great and it's fun. But going on a trip like that, it's a whole different learning experience.
There's something missing, especially when it comes to hunting, and you just don't see what you want to see when you're around a campground.
So could I ask a quick question before we end here? A while back, and just probably, we could do a whole other podcast on this with your wife. How do you feel moving to the West? And I know it sounds like your wife was the one who really spurred the
I'd like to say
the
it was me
move
saying,
to
hey,
happen.
we're moving west, but it wasn't.
But what would you say? I mean, has she always been so supportive of hunting for you? Has she? Because I get a lot of questions from guys and gals related to the relationship aspect of hunting, and if you're gone all but 3 days of September and you have young children, and is it something for her that's just easy, or is it something that's taken her moving to Montana to accept? Or
no, I am so glad you asked that. We should do. We'll close with this, but we should think about a podcast with this, because there's a lot of married couples out. Some of them hunt, some don't. I mean, I don't know you guys. We haven't been friends for that long time, but I would guess there's been some contentious moments over some of this.
Absolutely.
And just like with almost probably 90% of the hunters out there, or 100.
Most couples.
But my wife and I were, and I'm just going to say it, for the most of our marriage, we were very selfish. When we raced, she raced and trained we trained some, but I'm with my friends training, she's with her friends training, and we said hi and bye in the morning, and our marriage got in a real bad spot because we just were not very connected, to be honest. And moving west reconnected us a little bit more. But and not to get too crazy on this, and just making God and religion more of a focus of our life, which changed me a lot. Yeah. And I'm very blessed to get to what I do. My wife, it's funny you just said that. My wife wrote an article that's on my blog.
Well, I've read it, and that's why
I hunting asked. Selfish is basically, and I had no input on this article. I'd never saw it. She just delivered it to me, and I mean, it brought tears to my eyes when I read it. And but I put I put it on my blog as well. But it's there to read if anybody wants to read it. And I think that's her. Sure. That's kind of her side of it. Mm-hmm. And I've done some things too. I now have a Delorme. I'm trying not to be as selfish as I don't want her just at home thinking, is he alive or has he been eaten by something out there, over 7 days. So I text and stay in touch every night, every day almost. There's not a day goes by that she doesn't hear from me. And when I say I hunt all those days, I don't do a lot of days in a row. I'll do 7, 8, maybe 10 max days in a row. And then I make a trip back to Missoula, even if I got to drive 3 hours, spend the night, hang out with getting the head back out. Or so I've did that a few times this year. So I don't just stay gone.
Yeah.
Now I know that's still a lot. And I don't think I'm going to I don't know. I got a lot of hunts scheduled this year. It could be worse, but I'm mindful of that. Mm-hmm. And I want to make sure that she's good with it too,
And do you think that's something that comes with age and kids?
We were just talking about
age and children, or is that something that you feel like you said you've changed your position on, like religion and is it that, or is it just you feel that you would like to have a happy marriage, and as you get older, you start to see the things that don't work when you're younger and selfish?
You're hitting that perfectly because we were just talking about this the other night. A lot of it, I think, is age and maturity. I try to think back of how I was when I was, when you're 25 to 30, whatever. And I'm not just trying to put everybody in the same camp, but you're career driven. You're trying to make more money. I'm talking about the average male. You're trying to grow there, and it's never enough. You always want more. The grass is greener on the other side of the fence. You just got this drive. What makes those guys good hunters also makes them good in the career world, because they got that same drive. A lot of guys I know, they're just really good at what they do, and they're just pursuing and pursuing and pursuing. And but as time goes on, like when my wife told me we're moving, she goes, "How much do you have to have? I mean, what's the number? What number do you have to have? I mean, what financial number do you have to be at to step back from this and enjoy some life, a little bit?" And she kind of hit me. I'm like, I've changed that number in my life so many times. Like, I thought I needed to be here, and then I thought I needed to be there. And when I got there, I'm like, well, I need to be here. I don't know what the number is, but I know what life is now. And I didn't understand that so much when I was 30 or in my 30s. I was kind of hard to handle. I'll be honest with you. I was a roller back then. I was a me person. And I'm still struggle with that probably from time to time, but I'm blessed to have a wife that came alongside me at the same time with some of the same struggles, and we kind of figured it out almost kind of at the same time thing. But we had to get to the breaking point. She writes about that on her blog a lot too. She throws me under the bus a lot, but she always tells me she's going to do it, because she's the same way. She goes, man, all the things that we've struggled with, we're going to share some of that.
Yeah. And
maybe if we can keep a few people from doing it, then it's worth it.
Absolutely.
And so anyway, she's been great for me, and she lets me do it, and I'm blessed to do it.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Thanks.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, how can guys come across this blog and check out some of your videos?
TreelinePursuits.com is pretty simple. I've got all my Instagram channels on there too, and everything that I kind of do is on there. It's not, it's nothing extraordinary, but I really, like I said earlier, I really try to focus a lot of my stuff on coming from east to west, not all, about that, and doing things yourself.
Yeah.
I process my own meat, dehydrate my own food now.
Mm-hmm.
I got the llamas. So I'm a big do-it-yourself kind of guy. That doesn't mean I'm against guided hunts or any of that kind of stuff, but I've done some myself. I've got nothing. I just love doing it myself all the way through.
I am so with you. That's why I'm so glad to see your videos. They're super cool. I'd highly recommend anybody check them out, because it's really along the lines of most of the same things that we're into, and that's the food prep and packaging meat and doing the whole process start to finish on your own. So definitely great videos.
And I'm working on. I've got my problem right now is I've got so many projects started, like the scouting and the meat prep. I'm doing a meat one too, and
awesome.
I got to get some done, because it's been a while since I published very much, but I've got so many things kind of half done, so I got to get a couple out.
We call it the monster you have to feed.
You get bored with it. You get started on one, you don't get it done, you're like, but then the shiny objects get your attention, like, oh, digital scouting, let's do that.
Yeah,
and I let the other, but the problem is I'm letting some of these others set.
Yeah, so see, another a drawback of being a very driven, highly motivated, selfish, quote unquote, person. So you also tend to be a bit ADHD, because you have a lot of ideas
hitting you,
and the ideas hit you, and it's a great idea, but you haven't finished the idea you had before. And so, I mean, that's how I am.
Well,
I'm just like, and Ryan's always said, we're finishing this first.
Focus on one thing, and move on to the next one.
And then I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
I got into dehydrating my own food mainly from watching you guys' stuff. I mean, that's really was the key. I mean, that when I started following you guys and what you guys were doing, and your ebook, that's got me going, and cool. That's how I got started. So I really owe that part to you guys, actually, for that.
Cool. Well, I think you've put out as much, if not more.
Oh, you put out way better info than we
There's
have.
videos and everything.
You know what's
It's
bad
cool.
about it is you guys are so much. You just don't put it out there.
Yeah,
you need to start
I
putting.
know.
We've had some chats.
Yeah,
about this.
well, for us,
you
it's
guys are the
more
best kept secret in the industry right now.
We're
for us, it's just time. You know, we realize we have all these ideas, and I have the videos; they have to be edited. I have podcasts; they have to be edited. I have video; they have to.
But they don't have to be perfect.
No, and they
And
don't.
I forgot to turn off that heads up display on my Garmin Verb. That shows you your mileage. And some videos have that up, and I'm like, yeah, well,
who cares?
The content's there.
Yeah.
Well, it's not even anymore. It's not about perfection. It's about time management. And when you have other jobs and you have 2 young kids and you're the editor, I just hired someone to help with editing everybody. So I hope that we are going to be more consistent with what we have. Just because, you do need to, when you start to get to this point where we're at and you have all these things, you realize that it just takes a lot of time management to get it all out there.
Well, you kind of realize that people want the content. They want to learn. There's obviously some value there. So, and us being so dang slow at getting it out there, people are getting frustrated.
Well, the good thing is we have been consistent since Christmas Eve of 2016. We've actually been consistent. Doesn't mean that we've gotten all our information out there when we wanted to, but it means that we have been consistent. So that's driven us. Obviously, that's built our platform, and then that's driven us to see we need more time per week to do these things. Whereas before, when we first started, it was kind of like a little side thing. It was kind of fun. Well, now it's that great, awesome monster that's like, feed me, Seymour, feed me. And you got to stay up with it if you want to keep that consistency. So it's just a learning curve. And when you're someone like me, literally, if I had my choice, I would have a team of minions creating content for everybody because I have 1,000 ideas a day. There's not even there's no shortage of ideas. Yeah. There's just a shortage of manpower and time in the day. And so that's where sometimes that even creates an analysis paralysis. Like you say, put your content out. And I'm like, but I don't know if it's the right time.
That's right.
Is it the right stuff?
Well, you guys are learning some new tools too. I'm assuming you guys weren't experts in video and podcasts and equipment and audio visual.
No.
And a lot of these hunters are the same way. They're experts at killing.
Yeah.
And not to make that sound too bad, but the point is they go out in the woods, they provide for their family, and now they want to share it. And so now they got to learn a whole new set of tools.
Yeah.
Well, that takes its own set of time too.
Oh, man. I'm the worst at it.
You guys are doing great. You guys are doing a great job, and it's been another blessing.
I have to say, so let me
become friends.
Let me say that I really feel like the podcast that we did with Gritty, which was exactly a year ago, this BHA weekend, we did it at your house in Missoula. We were asked to be on there, and Gritty wanted to talk about sex and gut health and testosterone
till 2 o'clock. I couldn't even stay up for that when it was
I know.
When we were done, there was nobody left standing except for us.
But that was just like a shotgun podcast where Gritty threw questions at me, and I was like, hope I'm answering all these things right. And I think it was one of Gritty's largest downloaded podcasts ever. And that is really what got us
sex
people.
Sells.
I guess.
Yeah,
Maybe
he said
in the title.
He said that. He said, "Hill, it's just because I put sex
podcast.
in it." That's what he said, and I was like, "Whatever." But that is really where, after that, the floodgates open. So we owe it to Gritty. We owe it to you. We owe. We were all together this weekend a year ago, and so in the last year since that, we just. The outpouring of support from this community on hunting, obviously, because Ryan's got that amazing skill and knowledge, but relationships and health. So many people want to get healthy. They want to learn about vegetables, gardening. We're just kind of blown away by the support this community has shown us. So I just wanted to say, hey, you played a hand in that. We were,
my small, if I could just provide the house, that's my small part. I'm glad to. We had a great time having you guys, and it was great meeting you. And I've looked forward to so much stuff for you guys. You guys got so many talents in so many areas that you got so much to share that it's going to be a challenge just getting it all shared. I don't know if you even realize it, but you've been an influence to me, and I appreciate you having me on. And
thanks.
It's more of a hobby for me than a career path, but
it sounds like you've lived a lot of cool life, so you're just continuing that tradition. So that's important,
It's been good.
Yeah, cool.
Well, let's go BHA.
Yeah.
Okay.
All
beer
right.
bans in public lands.
Thanks, Mark.
See ya.
Thank you.